What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Facebook right away, and I'm going to go share this because it doesn't go to my personal page. So I got to share for my business, and you can do the same if you'd like.
Okay.
Everybody, while we're waiting for everybody to jump on, we go share. If you're on here, guys, as you jump on, please do me a favor and share this video. It would really help.
On my phone real quick.
There you go.
Where? You got it?
There you go. See us. There you go. I just shared it. Perfect. Awesome. We are live, and where are we? Got us. Cool, man. We've got a few people jumping on. Thank you guys for joining. Welcome to the Build Your Own Empire talk today. I'm here with Jefferson Rogers. My name is David A. Bettis. If I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, or you haven't had the pleasure of meeting Jefferson today, we're going to give you a little bit of content that we put together about, how we got here, why we're here, and why you should kind of pay attention. Because a lot of the things that I think many people miss, the kind of things that fly over their heads, is they tend to think that getting on and listening to somebody talk is all about just listening about them. We're not here to brag or to talk about any of our accomplishments. We're here to share with you what we've done and how maybe you could possibly do it too. And I brought on Jefferson because Jefferson is because he's definitely one of those guys that when you meet him, you definitely will be very inspired. There's very few people I say that about. There are very few people that I say that inspire you, and it really isn't through his words, it's more through actions. And I wholeheartedly believe that in life you can tell somebody anything you want. You can tell them to act a certain way, do a certain thing, become something. That doesn't really mean anything until you show them through your actions, right? You want people to follow your lead through the way you do things, and Jefferson's a true example of that. And I'll give you guys, just before we get into this interview, a really cool example of this is I got to hang out with Jefferson about 66 days ago. And I know this for a fact because 66 days ago, I decided to stop drinking. And I didn't stop drinking because I was a complete alcoholic, by the way. That's not really what it was. I just felt that alcohol was holding me back from exposing some of my potential. And it was really through seeing Jefferson and his wife, how disciplined they were being in their lives, their nutrition, their health, and how I knew if I wanted to get to the next level, I needed to do it too. And so he inspired me to do that. Without him saying anything, I came home and I was like, man, I got to stop drinking, man. I saw Jefferson with tons of energy. He was ready to take over the world every day, and I'm there dragging ass. And and you made me do it, man, without even knowing it. So I know you inspire a lot of people. And so I want to say thank you for being here. And let's say welcome. Everybody say welcome to Jefferson. How you doing, my man?
Right on, brother. I'm doing fantastic. It is an absolute beautiful day. I appreciate you having me on, dude.
Oh, man. Well, by the way, Jefferson also has a podcast. You can find him. You just look up Jefferson Rogers. You'll find him on his podcast every Tuesday, right?
No, I think it's actually Wednesday. We're doing every Wednesday.
I felt like it was Tuesday. Well, anyways, you can find him. And he also has a ton of free content all day, every day on Facebook and Instagram. And I'm sure everywhere else you can get cool stuff. So please, look him up after or during this interview. So Jefferson, tell me a little bit about yourself. Where are you from? What do you do? Why do you do it, man?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now I'm sitting in my home office here in St. George, Utah. I was born and raised out here in southern Utah. And about 3.5 years ago, I started a replacement window business here in St. George, where we primarily go into neighborhoods that are old, 15 years and older, and we talk to homeowners about upgrading their old contractor grade windows to a high performance, energy efficient window that's going to help them save money on their energy bills, make their home more comfortable, save years and years of life on their AC and their furnace units. And we've grown it in the last 3.5 years to, we've produced over $20 million in those 3.5 years. And we have a goal this year to produce 20 million in one calendar year.
Wow. No, I got to point this out because if you're watching this, you have to hear what he just said that was super funny. So you could tell he's a salesman when he said, we put high performance windows in your house. And
Absolutely, man.
So when I heard that, I'm like, man, if somebody came into my house and said, David, you need some high performance windows, I'd be like, what do these windows do for me, man? Please tell me.
Let me show you. I can send my director by later this evening. He'll bring a sample window with him.
This thing, I'm imagining like a Fast and the Furious. Anyway, so you sell high performance windows to people who obviously are experiencing maybe some challenges with their current windows, and so you've done that at such a high level. So tell me how you did that. Like, why do you? Because I'm sure there's other people out there that sell windows in Utah. So tell me how you're different than most people.
Yeah, I think in the beginning, the reason that I had the idea to start my own business is because I was working with another company. That's how I learned the business. And they were, they had good intentions, but they had been around for 3 years and they weren't really going anywhere. They weren't innovating. They weren't trying to step their game up in the way that they were servicing their customers. And, I was pretty much doing everything myself. So I decided to just do it my own and apply all of these ideas that I had to be world-class in customer service and service after the sale and delivering for the customer and communication and doing all the things that other service companies try and avoid, like asking for problems so you can make sure that no matter how the process has gone, that you make sure that you're following up to make sure that it is up to their standards.
Wow, that's pretty powerful. So just to be clear, you're saying that you differentiated yourself, but more importantly, I got to point this out because this is important, I think, to many people, which is you are saying you learned working somewhere else.
Yeah.
So now, did you go with the intention of doing that?
I mean, it's kind of a cool story the way that it worked out, because I was originally supposed to be one of the partners in that other business that I was working with. They had pitched me on being a partner. There was going to be 3 of us where we're going to conquer the world. We're going to start this window business together. They ended up doing it without me, which was, it was totally understandable, because back then I was a complete shit show. I was partying, drinking, smoking pot, and they did it without me, and I didn't even realize it. And I still ended up going to work for them because I didn't have any other options, and it was still the best opportunity for me. I just ended up being their top salesman, helping them open multiple offices. And in the process, I learned the business fairly well enough that the very first month in business for myself, I had my best personal production month that I'd ever had working with them for 3 years previous.
So you basically, you took the skills, knowledge that you gained there and said, I think I could apply this on my own. And you did it without that intention though, right? You just weren't intentional about that. It just happened. It fell into place for you.
It did. Yeah. It just came to a point all at the same time when I was trying to quit drinking and smoking, and I was getting involved with Grant Cardone and his kind of 10X movement and making big goals. And it wasn't really aligned with that company anymore, because I'm talking about all these goals that I wanted to accomplish and the income that I wanted to make and the amount of customers I wanted to see. And everybody was kind of turned off by how bad I was making them look. So it really just pushed me in the direction of doing my own thing.
Yeah. And you know what? I think that's such a good way to think about this. And, one thing I learned a long time ago, and I don't remember what book I read, but it was very impactful, which was how you show up at your job is exactly how you're going to show up as a business owner. And a lot of people think that becoming a business owner, like you just did, you took a leap of faith, that you're automatically just going to somehow miraculously want to work 24/7 and miraculously just, be sales driven and goal driven and very focused. But if you're not that way prior to owning a business, it just doesn't work out. And you're proof of that right now by saying that. Like, I was already telling people I wanted to crush it, and they weren't having it.
Yeah. And it wasn't always like that. There was a period just a few months before I started my business where I was at an all-time low. I had a really bad problem with drinking and smoking weed. But that shift that I made by getting sober and making some big commitments and big promises and setting some big goals, I had the best 2 months that I ever had the last 2 months that I worked for that company. And I had built up some serious momentum as I was moving in to start my own company. So we were off to a pretty good start.
So So tell me, I mean, I don't know if you want to share this, but this would really help. I think a lot of people, you just said that you were not in a good place and you transitioned to a good place and well, to a better place in your life. How did you kick some of the addictions or some of those vices that you had in your life?
It was something that I battled with for a long time, man. So it was a slow process, but because I didn't let that little voice inside of my head dwindle too much, it was always there telling me that you're capable of more, you're not doing everything that you can do. And I was always had something inside of me that said that, this is the one thing that is holding you back. The drugs and the alcohol are going to keep you from being able to accomplish your true potential. And it kind of all accumulated over time. And it was a combination of just being at an all-time low, plus being exposed to Grant Cardone and being able to relate to his story and being able to overcome addiction and then achieve a high level of success. And I mean, I always wanted that. I always knew that I was capable of it. And I'd been told my whole life that I was a born leader. I just wasn't maximized on it. So I made the decision January 8th, 2018 to quit drinking and quit smoking pot. And I've been sober ever since. And I just transitioned from all of those bad habits and replaced them with a bunch of good habits and started developing more and more and more to start compounding my ability to produce and get some high level results.
So just to be clear, you're really telling me that 3.5 years ago, you were a different man.
Completely different, man.
Wow. That's super impressive, man, because many people wouldn't be able to do what you just did. And it's not because I don't think that they have it in them. Do you find that maybe you had a little more driving? Was there something going on in your life that just said, hey, man, like I know you said you already had it in here and you already had a thought about it, which is just the beginning of something. Did something push you over the edge?
I think, you know what? I'm the oldest of 4 boys. So we're all very close, and I'm a pretty strong influence over those guys. And I wanted to be a good influence, and I hadn't been a very good influence. So that was one big driver for me, is I wanted to do something special. I wanted to make an impact on my family and be a good example to my brothers and give them something better to live up to, I guess, because I have some influence with my brothers, and they weren't reaching their full potential either. And then I'm also married. I have little kids too. I had just a few months before I started the personal development journey, I was at a concert with my wife and my brother. We're celebrating their anniversary. I can't remember if it was 4 or 5 or 6 year anniversary. And I had been drinking all day. I ended up getting in a fight with my wife. I headbutted somebody in the parking lot. I drove my truck off completely drunk, ran from the security, jumped out of the truck and had to run from security and left my truck behind to get towed that night. The next morning, I'm supposed to be taking my son to a birthday party with that vehicle that got impounded. So it was kind of a combination of all these things, being at a low point, kind of feeling like a dirtbag because of that sequence of events, and knowing that it was time to make a change, to start really living up to my true potential and being able to be that influence and make an impact with the family that I wasn't doing.
Wow, man. And just man, 3.5 years, that's awesome. So it took you to becoming sober, focusing on your business, growing a business, scaling a business, to now you're telling me you're going to 2x your in the last 3 years, you're going to do it this year. I mean, that's impressive. So if somebody was maybe thinking about, making that leap of faith to becoming a business owner, and they just said, okay, look, I believe he did it. I know he must be different than me. Do you feel like there's something that just makes you different, that you could have done this? Or do you think anybody could do what you just achieved, or has the ability? Not anybody could, but has the ability in them to do it?
You know what? I think anybody that's going through what I was going through has the ability. I think the only difference is some people put it off long enough that that little voice that was talking to me, telling me that I wasn't doing enough and I wasn't living up to my true potential and I was capable of doing more, the longer you wait, the quieter that voice gets, because you just justify longer and longer and longer until you just give up.
Wow.
And I mean, it's never too late, but the sooner you can get a handle on it and listen to that, what I call probably is my conscience telling me to get going. Anybody's capable of doing it. It's just making the decision and getting to work.
Man, so there's a lot to be said there, man. It's impressive. So let's kind of transition and tell me now, you have your business, you're growing really fast. What do you think some of the benefits, what is the biggest benefit that you find in owning your own business today? I mean, what do you find besides, is it freedom? I'm not saying besides, because that might not be there. But what do you feel like the benefits of being a business owner today is?
You know what? I think I've found some things inside of my business that I really enjoy. And I think the benefits of having your own business is being able to decide what direction you go with things and not have to rely on anybody else for the direction and for inspiration. So it's my job as a leader and a business owner and a coach and a mentor to my team to always be innovating, always be taking it to the next level, and be the visionary about what we're doing, what we're trying to accomplish, where we're going, why we do this, how we're going to deliver for our customers, and make that so normal in the everyday talk around our company that even to the furthest ends, all the way down to the person that takes the trash out, everybody knows what we stand for here at JKR Windows. And that's where I get the most fulfillment, is working and developing with people and talking about where we're going and casting the vision about what the possibilities are.
I find that a commonality amongst great leaders is that they're always coaching and developing their teams. Like that's just a passion. And I find that that's the one key indicator that somebody's going to grow a business, is they constantly invest in their people. And can you share some of maybe the things that you think most companies should be investing in their people with? Is there certain things that you do with your team right now that you thought maybe, hey, if every company did this, they would 10x their growth?
I think communication is a big thing. The bigger you get, the less connected you can be with all of your people. But the more connected you are with your key players and the higher level of communication that you develop within the organization, so it just becomes normal, the stronger all of those relationships are. And the more comfortable people are sharing their ideas and what could possibly be like a groundbreaking piece of innovation that came from the lady that answers the phones. That, just because of my knowledge and my background and the difference in what her perspective is, we may have never made the connection on something like that without having her comfortable enough to call me out on it, or to schedule a meeting with me and say, hey, I've just been wanting to talk to you about this. Do you got time next week?
Mm-hmm. That's pretty powerful. So communication, anything else? Any other indicators, something that you maybe do uniquely?
These last couple of years, I've been really focused on my sales teams and developing leadership so I can kind of duplicate myself. As you grow and you've got, 10, 15 salespeople, and then all the setters that are setting appointments for them, we're at close to 30 total salespeople, the less involved I can be with every single person that's being trained.
Yeah.
So developing my sales leaders and casting the vision to them and building confidence inside of them to be able to make decisions and sit down with somebody that's new and build a level of belief in a new person that they've never had anybody do with them in their entire lives, coming from, any type of industry, whether it's restaurants or painting or any type of construction, and then they're introduced to a very intimidating industry like sales, especially door knocking. It's those one-on-one interactions with people, building a higher level of belief in them, has been one of the things that I think companies can benefit from, but people struggle with, because a lot of times you got to start out with the uncomfortable conversations before you can develop those relationships. And people usually try and avoid uncomfortable conversations at all costs.
Do you find that really the reason you do that is because you build the respect, that they know that they care? Is that what it is? They know you care first, and then you can now come in and say, okay, look, I love you and I care about you. I want you to be good and successful, but let me tell you what you're doing wrong. Is that what you do?
Yeah. So, I mean, you have to have expectations, and you have to have a strong environment and culture and core values. So this is not just stuff that's up in the air and everybody knows. There's kind of like some unwritten stuff going on within the company. The clearer you are on the mission and the core values and expectations, the more you can use those in those uncomfortable conversations to call people out and say, listen, this is clear as day. We got it all over the walls. It's all over the office. You know exactly what you're supposed to be doing, and you're not doing it. And the way you show up for your team is a direct reflection of how the rest of your team is going to respond.
That's true. So true. So you're basically saying, hey man, we live by these rules here, and this is the rules we follow. And when you don't follow the rules, I'm going to call you out on it. That's really what you're saying.
And you know what? I think where the difference between management and leadership is, it's just some small little shifts. Like rules, we don't use rules. We use expectations.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
So we've got them on the wall. Everybody knows what they are. They're pretty straightforward. There's these 5 things for the team that you're expected to do. And if you're not doing it, somebody is going to call you out. And it's not always me, because I can't be around, but somebody within our team knows those well enough, whether you're new or you haven't been exposed to it yet, or you haven't been called out on it yet, you don't think we're serious. Because we're serious, you are going to get called out. And then it's easier to have those conversations when you have clear expectations.
That's so well said, man, because so many people go to work, and I remember being young in business, and when people, I think most businesses start with that foundation of these are the expectations, or these are the core values that we have. And then, as you kind of start scaling and growing, some people lack or fall short of those things. And then you're just like, I'm just too busy to call that out, or maybe we'll just let that one slide this one time. And I think that happened a lot to me in the early years. And then I think that's why a lot of the staff that I had on early are not with me anymore, my team, because we got past the point where I could say things, because I let them, pass me up so many times. And I think that's a really good indicator that you have a good team, because if you're already holding people at that high of an accountability, that's pretty impressive. That's really good. I mean, it's really good.
I mean, it's important as you grow a team that you grow it in the right direction. You're not going to have to redo things or reteach things. And the one thing about growing and developing strong leadership and strong salespeople, if you make exceptions and you allow mediocrity within your group of people, all your A players are going to go somewhere else where they're not going to be around mediocrity.
I 100% agree, man. Wow, that's really good. So let's transition from businesses to get to you, man, because you're a very, like I mentioned, inspiring individual. So you told me in 2018-ish is when you really, or probably 17 is probably when you really started to have some epiphanies, I'm sure. Yeah. And you said, hey, man, I need to change. And it sounds like you went on a personal development journey. So kind of talk to me about that journey so far. What have you committed to in your own life that really, besides the, getting rid of some of the vices, what have you really committed? What did you say, or what did you do? What were some of your biggest commitments at the beginning?
So the getting sober was the biggest one. I had battled with that for years. I started smoking cigarettes when I was, I think, 13 years old. Cigarettes and weed, I started smoking when I was 13, and I started drinking beer when I was 14. And I mean, I partied hard. I went hard pretty much all the way from my teenage years till I was 33 years old. So making that commitment was kind of that transition point that allowed me to start creating some good habits in my life, because it freed up a lot of space and a lot of clarity. And then, one of the big things that I think, if you don't take anything else away from this, one of the big things that helped me was getting involved with Grant Cardone and their mentor program that they were doing at the time, where it was a group of people, weekly check-ins, challenges with reading, writing your goals, getting up before the sun comes up, getting your exercise in, kind of like a 75 hard before 75 hard was around.
So are you saying, I didn't even know Cardone did this, so you're just saying you went through an accountability group that you had never done before?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this was November of 2017. A commercial came across on Facebook, and he's talking about this ambassador program that he's doing for the next 3 months leading up to the 2018 growth conference. It's $1,100. These are some of the things we're going to do. He says he's going to personally mentor a couple hundred people. And I was sitting there in my car while I was supposed to be out knocking doors. And instead I'm scrolling through Facebook and I see this come across. I immediately checked the bank account. Okay, $1,100. Let's see what I got. I had exactly $1,100 in my bank account. Then I call my wife and I say, I'm going to pull the trigger on this mentor program, and it just so happens to be $1,100, and that's all we have left in the bank account. Do you trust me?
Oh my gosh. Okay. And she said what?
And I mean, she was a little hesitant, but she's always believed in me. She's my strongest supporter. And we went all in on this ambassador program together. 2 months later, I finally made the decision, laying in bed the morning after I had been up drinking and smoking weed all night till 2 o'clock in the morning. And I finally admitted that I had a problem to my wife and committed to her that I was going to make a change, that I was absolutely done. I need your help. I need you to help me stay accountable to this and stay on track and keep me focused on things that are going to help me stay on pace for what our new goals are.
Wow. So by the way, I have a question about this, because I saw that ambassador program, and this was leading up to 10X Vegas, right?
Yeah.
And I actually almost pulled the trigger, but I didn't believe that Cardone was going to coach everybody. I thought he was just going to have, Jared or something, or.
You know what? And that's happened to me. That's happened to me multiple times. And I think this happens to a lot of people, and it keeps them from pulling the trigger on things like that could potentially change their life based off of some type of misconception or lack of trust or some kind of bad experience that they've had in the past. And I think, he realistically, he didn't mentor everybody personally, but we did do weekly calls that we were all on, and we all had the same opportunity to interact with him and get on these calls and send in questions. But the biggest thing was I was committed to getting every bit of value out of that program as I was humanly capable of. And I completely maxed out on it. I made some big goals and I made some big promises, and I was loud about it. I was making live Facebook posts out in the field, knocking doors in the snow, talking about what my goals were for that week, that month, where I'm going, my income goals. And I was trying to set myself up to not quit, because I was telling everybody what I was going to do.
That's a big part of it.
And then I went out and delivered on it.
So interesting thing though is what you said, and I see this a lot, right? And you're right, because I said that. I said, I don't think this guy can coach us all for $1,100. That doesn't make any sense. So I didn't do it, but I already had a ticket. So it didn't make any sense to buy it and then do it anyway. So I didn't do this, but I think what you said was golden, because I think I heard Coach Burt say this or something. I don't remember where I heard it, but the obligation of any course, event, or any educational function, anything, the obligation is on the receiver to really do something with the information. It wasn't Grant's job to go hold your hand and tell you to go and, make $1 million. It was really, you were going to take everything. If he just came on for 2 minutes, you said, hey, I'm going to take those 2 minutes. I'm going to make sure I get something out of that 2 minutes. Right. And that's important, because many people would say, well, Grant only came on for 2 minutes. I need my money back because he didn't change my life. And I think that's something to be said about people today, especially when you want everything fast, speed and convenience above all else, right? It has to be easy for me to get it, and I have to be able to get it really quickly. It's high speed, and not very many people are willing to have that patience. So you did Cardone. And by the way, I know you're plugging Cardone and everything, and I really love Cardone. I mean, I actually was 10X all of them. I've done everything with him. But do you think it was just Cardone that stood out to you, or you think that it could have been somebody else at the time? You were just ready to receive a message.
Yeah, I think, at that time of my life, his story really resonated with me. And since I've kind of lost touch with all their programs, and it hasn't been as impactful as it was at that stage of my life. And it could have been, you're right, man, it could have been anything. I was just ready. And that was the message that came across when I was ready at the right time. It resonated with his stories with addiction and overcoming and success. And I had just started listening to the 10X Rule, which is a phenomenal book. And I love listening to him narrate his own books because he's got such enthusiasm about his content. And it was just right place, right time. I was ready. It was uncomfortable, and I had some big decisions to make over those first 2 months before I finally made the decision to get sober and go all in and take all that massive action that was going to help me accomplish my goals. And that was kind of that transition that helped me change that trajectory.
You're all in, man. One of my favorite books by Cardone is Be Obsessed or Be Average. Yeah. I think that's my favorite book from him. I mean, I've read 10X, I've read Sell or Be Sold, I've read all of them, but Boba, man, that door. I always tell people that's the kind of book that you read it, you hear him. Well, I listen to books, so you hear Cardone talking, and you just want to go home and kick down the freaking door, Like you just get pumped. And I don't think a lot of people experience it that way, but I guess when you understand where he's coming from, it just makes you feel good. So
I love listening to him narrate.
So what was after Cardone? Did you go transition? You stay around with Cardone? Did you go somewhere else? Just curious which track you took, or did you
I think I did. I stuck with Cardone for a little while, and just mainly reading his books and following his content, because I was now just ultra focused on building my business and putting in the hours and starting to develop myself as a coach and a mentor. So I had the ability to attract some more people into my business to help me expand. But another cool story was in January. So this was 2 years later, January of 2020. We had just done 2 million in our business. I was pretty excited about it. We had doubled over the previous year, went from 1 million to 2 million. And I went to a conference. It was called Door to Door Con, and it was in Salt Lake City, Utah. And I met a guy by the name of Sam Taggart that runs that conference.
Yeah.
And made a commitment on the last day of the conference to use Sam and his company's consulting program for my business. And I made a commitment that day after a series of events and meeting somebody else in my same industry that had a goal of doing 10 million. So I had a new goal of what was originally 4 million. I changed it to 10 million, and I asked Sam if he'd be willing to help me. I got some big goals. I want to do 10 million this year, and he thought he could help me. So I signed up, and that consulting program, that outside perspective on my business and applying things that Sam had learned from all of his years in the door-to-door industry, helped us explode. And during the pandemic, we grew by 500%.
Whoa. Now, how did I mean, this is interesting because I think that's a very, very ballsy move, right? Because I'm sure this wasn't cheap, right? To get into a program that was going to help you. How did you make that big ballsy move, man? I mean, I'm sure he was selling hard on the stage. You could be consulted or trained by me, and there was probably a bunch of people saying, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then he said how much, and they were all like, no, 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 no.
No, you know what? The funny thing is he didn't even sell it from stage. At that point, he had started working with a couple people, but he was still a little unsure about his ability to deliver results for people. So he wasn't really pushing it. What had happened was I ran into this other guy that did the exact same thing that I did in the window industry. And he just happens to be the only other window guy in this entire conference of, like 1,500 or 2,000 people. And I almost walked out of there without talking to a single person, but I made a commitment to talk to somebody. And he was wearing an Arate Syndicate hat with that gold alpha.
Yeah.
And I asked him what it was because I'd seen it before, but I couldn't remember. And his guy recognized me because I had actually been in their office a month before that trying to recruit one of their setter managers, just trying to go right into their office and poach him. And he's like, you know what? I remember you. How do I know you? So it was some cool synchronicity, but he was the guy that actually told me about this consulting program because he had used it. And he said, dude, if you want to do some big numbers, these guys can help you. They can set up some training. They can set up some virtual interactive training for your people to learn how to take it to the next level. Plus, they've got this consulting program that'll help you build out your business. And I walked right into their tent and said, I want to learn about your guys' consulting program.
Wow. And so just fate, man. That was crazy. Running a great guy. And so
that's what happens, dude. When you're making goals and you're trying to accomplish big things and you're willing to get uncomfortable, those opportunities will present themselves. But if you're not ready, I could have just as easily walked out of that event, never fucking talked to one person, and went right back home with my goal of doing 4 million, and we probably would have hit 4 million. But because I was willing to get uncomfortable and I talked to that one guy, led to a conversation with the guy that led the conference, which led to a $60,000 commitment for a 1-year consulting. No, actually it was 6 months. It was $10,000 a month. 6-month consulting. I'd more than paid for that sucker within the first 2 months by some of the initial things that he told me to implement in my business. And we took it from 2 million to 10 million in 1 year, largely because of that consulting, that one decision, that one freaking person that I decided to talk to.
Well, it's all just because you had a different perspective, right? I mean, it's because you probably had some understanding of some of the things, but you don't get to call yourself out. You don't get to see yourself from the outside in. As Coach says, you don't get to see the picture when you're inside the frame. No. And that's probably what, I mean, really stands out to me is that you had a good coach. And that's amazing, man. So personal development went from, I need to improve Jefferson, then it went into business. And then, recently when we met through Coach Burt. And kind of tell me how you got there. How did you get to Coach Burt?
So, yeah, I think I initially saw Coach Burt speak at that first growth conference in 2018. That was basically the first event that I'd ever gone to.
Okay.
And I brought my wife with me. I'd initially bought that $1,100 consulting or the mentor program that came with a ticket to growth conference.
Yep.
I had to buy my wife a ticket, and then we went together. We got to experience that whole thing together. We're making our dreams and our goals together. And we saw Coach Burt speak, and I told her that day when we saw him speak that I'm going to work with that guy someday. And then it was kind of a sequence of events. He spoke at that door-to-door con that I was at in 2020. And then 9 months later, he came and spoke at a private mastermind event that we did up on the mountains in Idaho. And we made a connection there. And then I got hooked up with him and went out to an event at his lodge and just started going through the motions of trying to develop a relationship with him and figure out how he could take what he knew and apply it to the direction that I'm going. And it's been a great relationship.
That's awesome. By the way, I was at that 10X too. I think we showed you that. My wife and I were at 10X, and that's where we saw Coach Burt. And probably didn't use those same words, but I remember when he was presenting, I told my wife, this is the only guy that stepped up on stage that had it together, like that was really organized, had structure, was really delivering. Like all the other presenters were great, or speakers were great. It just, he was the only guy that you could tell went up prepared.
Oh my God. He was so prepared. And it completely boggled his mind. I spoke about it with him later about, he knows Brad Lee, and he's good friends with all the guys that spoke at that event. And when he asked Brad what he was going to talk about, he's literally getting ready to go on stage and still hadn't put any thought into what he was about to talk about on stage in front of 10,000 people.
Oh my God.
And it blew his mind. He looks at his wife and is like, we've been preparing for this thing for 2 months straight. This fucking guy is about to walk out here and didn't prepare 1 minute.
Well, it worked out though, because Coach said, right, I think he told us he made $1 million off of all the deals that came from that one speaking engagement. So what he did was absolutely what he needed to do, right? Which was be prepared. That's just so genius, man. And I saw him. I said I got to work with him. I bought his training program that day because I thought this is something we got to do. And then I've been working with Coach. And I guess your first event at the lodge was my first event too, which was I don't know what it was called, but whatever.
Something $1 million.
Yeah, $1 million coaching.
$1 million coaching, yeah.
Yeah, and we bought everything that day, right?
We did, man. Yep. I knew that I wanted to work with him, and then everything that he was talking about that day felt right, and we did. I mean, and then we've been to several other of his events since then.
It's funny. Coach actually, I talked just like you talked to him, and recently I was talking to him about you, and he goes, it's funny. It wasn't funny. It was very insightful because he said something to me which stood out. He goes, man, that guy from the day I met him has like 10x'd his life. He is like just totally a different guy. He's so committed. He's so focused. And I'm just like, and for a coach to say that, man, that's pretty impressive, bro, just to be clear. And I thought, man, that's awesome, man. That's just so awesome. Because that means that really means that you really are doing, the things. And I know, and by the way, I love that you're humble about it, right? And I know that you are. You're just saying, hey, man, this is what I got to do.
It is, man. I want to bring as many people along with me as I possibly can. It's a whole lot funner to make money with people that you enjoy being around.
That's exactly right. So let's transition to one last topic, because I think this is important, because I referenced at the beginning of this, you inspired me to go on this kind of health journey. I don't think I was in poor health, by the way, before I met you, but I just realized there was another level, another level of commitment that I just wasn't ready to make. And, I feel like I've done it. I'm sure there's always going to be another level, by the way. I feel like there's still a few, but so tell me how you got into this health journey, because recently, just to disclaimer everybody, man, I watched this guy compete. I didn't get to see him on stage, but he competed for something, and he can share a story here. But what I was really impressed with is that, he never had any experience in this type of, competition or doing anything. And, and then I meet him and he's just like, yeah, I'm going to do this thing. I'm like, whoa, it's pretty impressive, man. So it's kind of tell me how you got into the health journey, what you did, how it all worked out for you.
So I think it's, another one of those things that I wanted to take to the next level for a lot of years. When I first met my wife back in 2009, I had moved away from my hometown to get out of all of the same patterns I was repeating, the partying, the smoking, the drinking, the friends, all the negativity. And I lost your picture there. You still there, David? Or am I on here by myself now?
Yeah, you're by yourself, man. I hit something. I don't know what I did. Go on. Sorry. Yeah, we're still live. Go ahead, man. So you were doing all these things.
So yeah, it was life started happening, and I got married, lots of commitments, and didn't have the discipline to get up early and get to the gym consistently. So I let that slip and went years and years and years without taking care of myself or exercising. And as a result, I got a little fluffy. Luckily, I have good genes, so I never got overweight or anything. I just started, getting a little bit pear-shaped and not looking like I knew that I could look with a little bit of effort. So, with all of the good habits that I had built as I transitioned to doing personal development, reading books and watching good content, listening to good content, surrounding myself with good people, what I noticed is that all of the most successful people and the people that I looked up to the most were the ones that they had all of it together in all of the areas of their life, and they didn't have to fucking fake any of it because it was actually how they lived every single day. And that's what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to be. That's the example that I wanted to give to everybody that I come into contact with, is that I don't only talk about this stuff because I can talk a big game just like most anybody can, but I'm actually going to live it. I'm going to embody it. I go to the gym every single day, 5 o'clock in the morning. Me and my wife wake up together at 4 o'clock. We're at the gym together at 5 o'clock. It's an opportunity to spend time together, to strengthen our relationship, to strengthen our bodies. And, we try and eat as healthy as possible. We do meal planning where we order our food from a place, and we're intentional about what we're putting in our bodies, because where we're going and what we're doing and at the pace that we're trying to do it at, you have got to have energy and you've got to have stamina. And unless you're healthy and treating your body right, you can't go at the pace that I'm going.
That's damn right. After our event in Napa, I gave up drinking. I gave up anything other than just water, man, and obviously some protein and some things that I need. But I've only been on water, and actually, I was drinking like 700, 800 milligrams or grams rather of caffeine every day. I was consuming a ton. I was doing 2 energy drinks. I was doing pre-workouts, and today, man, I'm not on anything.
Wow.
I have totally changed from seeing you do it, because honestly, it's about energy, right? You can't do anything without energy. And I figured, it's the one thing I had to change. Then I hooked up with Dr. Steve, which I had last week, and man, dude, changed my life, man. It's changed my life. I tried to tell people that, and I think what you've done is insane. So you took this health journey, but you took it to another extreme. What did you do? I mean, you competed. Tell us about your competition. That's extreme.
So yeah, it was about 19 months ago, I decided to start using a personal trainer. So I mean, pretty much every area of my life, I use a coach or I have a mentor. And that was one of the areas that I was still missing. And things aligned really well where we met this guy, great personality. And it was at this little excluded gym where there's not a lot of people there. And it felt right. My wife felt good with it. I felt good with it. So we initially started working out. She would work out and then I would work out. We'd switch days. And then it lined up where now we could go together every morning. And we've got the 5 o'clock slot 6 days a week with this guy.
Nice.
And he himself is a competitor and a bodybuilder that's been doing it for 8 years. So he has a great physique. And he's also very disciplined. And it was something that I had kind of toyed around with because, I've already got a fairly good physique just without even doing anything. But if I could get some of these things right with my diet, my exercise, my cardio, and my training, I think I could compete at a pretty high level in one of these competitions. But I just wasn't to a point yet where I was willing to commit to all of those extra things that I wasn't doing. I was up to doing 2 hours of cardio 6 days a week leading up to that competition. So it was a big commitment. But one of the catalysts for that was I had completed 75 hard at the end of 2020 on December 4th. I finished It was amazing. Felt so good to accomplish something like that. I saw some great results. And now it was like, listen, I know that if I set my mind to doing one of these competitions, that I can do it. And I've got the confidence in myself to be disciplined and stick with all the regimens, with the eating and the cardio and the lifting 6 days a week. So it was just a couple months later, I made the commitment. I started talking about it, telling everybody what I was going to do. I was going all in, no cheating whatsoever. And I'm going to go in there with the intention to go win this competition.
So did you win?
And I did exactly that. Yep.
You fucking won, man. I saw the gold, bro. Man. So you guys, just to be clear, if you're watching this, man, in Napa Valley, which is like wine country of the world, we're there. And this guy's preparing for a competition, which was just taking place in less than 2 months. And we're going out and drinking, and he's got bags of meat with him. Bags of turkey meat. I mean, already cooked, right? He's not eating raw meat. That would have been crazy, by the way. This guy, but he had a bowl. Well, he had a bag, with a bowl, bags of meat, and some broccoli. And he was every 2 hours, this guy would take out a bag of meat, and he'd just start eating meat with us while we were drinking wine and having a good time. It was the funniest thing, but it was so. Oh man, honestly, it was so inspiring. I'm like, golly, man, you're making me feel like shit here.
Dude, it was a big commitment. I had to take, I mean, that wasn't the only time I had to do that. Every trip that I went on a lot of trips in that 100 days I was preparing for that show. I had to take frozen food with me everywhere that I went.
Fuck, man. Well, I'll tell you that, I'm not as clean with my eating as I probably could, but it's definitely changed. But to go super strict and clean is it's another level of commitment. It really is. And that's why very few people can do what you did, man. And I congratulations on that success, because that's hardcore, man, to me. Even to me, man. And I feel like I'm pretty committed to things. I think I like food. I remember I asked you that. You said you're not a foodie, though.
No, I'm not very picky with food, and it doesn't take much to satisfy me. Right now I'm back on some food prep from a local company here, and it's just fuel for me, man. I try and get it down as quick as possible so I can get on to the next thing.
Yeah, my trainer, and it's kind of funny, our stories kind of are very similar. I have a trainer that I work with. Me and my wife work with him at 5 a.m. every morning. He's very in shape. He's a competitive bodybuilder. He's very good. He's very raw, which I really like. He'll call you out and he talks shit with you. And, his whole motto is no excuses, right? You can't make any excuses. So if you say, well, I don't feel like this or that, he's like, hey, man, that's an excuse. I don't want to hear it, right? And he always tells me every time, because I'm like, man, it's so hard to eat so clean, man. He's like, it's not food, it's fuel. Just remember that. It's fuel. I'm like, fuck, man, you're so smart, but fuck, I don't want to do it,
Commitment, because there's so many things that we love that we grew up eating, and the ice cream, the cookies, the candies, the caramels, all the things that I love, they're not going to serve me in my goals and the energy levels that I need to be able to operate the way that I want to operate. Correct,
man. And that's why you're doing such good in the world, man. So kind of end this with, kind of share with everybody how they can get in touch with you, or what channels you're on, what things you're doing, your podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So my Instagram handle, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, they're all Jefferson K. Rogers. And if you go to Apple Podcasts or Spotify or iHeartRadio, you can find the Jefferson Rogers podcast. And I think we're sitting at 18 episodes right now. Every single one of them has been phenomenal. The last two were with two pretty high level guys. One of them was the CEO of a company in Utah that he had sold out his previous business for $1.8 billion.
Oh shit.
To Adobe. And then the other gentleman it's a really cool success story, kind of more like a corporate success story that's not very common anymore. But he started all the way at the bottom as a janitor and worked his way up to CEO of this company.
Whoa, that is impressive.
Yeah, really cool couple of stories on those last 2 podcasts. And we've got some really cool guests coming up. And I've been working on this book all in for the past year. And I've had a couple of hiccups along the way, but I'm getting that damn book out within the next 6 months.
There you go, man. So it's going to be a book, All In, baby. I love the title, by the way.
All in.
I can't express how fitting that is for you. It is just, it's even though, I was thinking about it when we were talking in Napa. I mean, everything you do, you're just like, look, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. I'm all in. Like,
yeah.
And I think that's,
I was blessed with, it's an addictive personality, and I didn't always look at it as a blessing, but when you're using it for positive, it is an absolute blessing.
Wow, man. Well, I hope that your kids have some of this positivity and have that same drive and dedication, because it's a beautiful thing to have, man. I mean, it's having that laser-like focus paired with your commitment levels of being all in. That's just killer. So I got you here, Jefferson K. Rogers, and you can find him Jefferson Rogers Podcast. Anything else you want to share with the audience? We got to talk about our event real quick. So
yeah.
You're coming in. Tell me what you're going to be talking about so everybody knows.
Yeah, man. I think with the group of people that we're going to be sitting in front of, I really like sharing how I grew my business and the progress from a new business owner, new entrepreneur, to learning everything that it took to be able to develop a team and cast that vision and have something special for somebody to be a part of, to keep showing up to attract a high level of person, and all the leadership and the success principles that helped me get to that point.
So would you consider that part of, let's say, your legacy, how you're building it?
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's been a wild ride, and there's as many people as I get to talk to on a monthly basis that own businesses, that are aspiring entrepreneurs. I mean, I wish more people had some of what I have right now and what I've been able to do within the past 3 years, to just see something and see an opportunity and just be completely fearless in tackling something head on.
Wow.
Because people, the human condition in most cases keeps us from moving forward because of the anxiety and the fear of a bunch of shit that's just made up in our head.
It all is, man. It's the uncertainty, doubt, brother. I think that's what I always tell people who tell me I'm scared or I'm fearful, or it's just the absence of faith, right? Believing in yourself.
Yep.
Just the
expect success, believe in yourself. And if you don't have that belief in yourself, you got to start somewhere. You got to start getting some little wins under your belt to get some of that confidence, to start creating momentum. And you develop a level of confidence to know that whatever you put your mind to, because of your little successes that you've built up over time, that anything you put your mind to, you're going to be able to accomplish.
Man, well said. Well, I'm hoping you're going to drive home some really good information and some enthusiasm, some of that fire. I actually feel like you're going to light up the room. I have a feeling, man.
That's the plan, brother. That is the plan every time I step out there.
Dude, we'll have the bags of meat ready for you, and it's gonna be a fun time. So if you guys want to meet us or meet Jefferson in person, get to our live mastermind event on South Padre Island next Friday, which is the 30th of July. It's a great event. I promise. We have some great presenters. I mean, Jefferson is going to be bringing in so much heat. I can already tell you, just from being around the guy, you're going to feel this energy. You're going to feel different. I think that's the one thing that Jefferson referenced at the beginning today, which was he got around a bunch of people in a big room, which is a Cardone event, and it really helped to inspire and help him change his mindset. And every step of the way has come from just getting into one room, getting into one mastermind, getting into one coaching program. And this is just could spark an idea that could either change your business or change your life, your relationships, your health. We're going to have so much at this event, and I'm so excited to have Jefferson there. So if you guys want to meet him, want to get to know him, maybe work with him in some way, that would be awesome. You got to get to this event, man. So do you want to sign off with anything? You want to say anything to the audience today?
Yeah, shoot. I look forward to the event you're putting on. It's you put a lot of effort into this thing. I'm excited to see how it turns out and to be able to bring as much value as I can. I appreciate you having me on today, brother. Look forward to seeing you here next week.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you, man. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching today. We wish you all nothing but health, wealth, success, but most importantly, freedom. We'll talk soon. Thanks, Jefferson.
Later on, brother.
My man.